and a laugh or two, if there's something funny to laugh about, that is. But I'm just trying to say that towards the end is not as intense as the start of the show, so that you don't go home just feeling all tensed. You get my drift? Yes, you do get them. So, my name is Kimberly Wachuku. Call me Kim, the Oracle, the digital Oracle, that is. OTF, the fellow, or Chanyawan, Madam Speaker. I'll say yes to them all. I'll be your host from now to 7 p.m. If you're watching us via Facebook and YouTube, which you should, because we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at Nigeria Info Abuja. I've got Daniel by my side. How are you doing, Daniel?
I'm fine, man.
Yeah, it'd be a nice way to put up a smile on your face for the camera. Even if you don't feel like it.
It's just the weather.
It's not the weather. You don't like the weather?
Not for today.
Not for today, because it's a Monday.
Yeah,
you would have rather it happened on a Friday or weekend.
Or Saturday.
I see.
I'll be in my bed.
I get it. Perhaps that's why a lot of people would be in that manic Monday mood, because they would wish it was on a Saturday where you just tuck yourself in. But no! It rained on a Monday. Take it and deal with it. All right. So I was actually buying time to see if my guest would join me in the studio. Senator Iruegbu, a journalist with Global Sentinel magazine, paper that is, to join me in the studio. He's running a little late, so might have to get started. Once he gets here, he will join us for the cause of the program, as there's just so much to look at. During the weekend, the report of the Christ Embassy Church, the HQ in Lagos, went up in flame, and it got a lot of people talking. Yeah, they're already talking about we'll bring the building down and we'll build something a lot bigger. I mean, there's a glimmer of hope. You could always get something bigger, but I hope they'll also be able to interrogate what caused the fire, because I feel like we're having one too many of these church building fires. Lagos, I think last year there was a church that went up in flame. Was it last year or 2 years back? One of those big mega churches went up in flame. They're still raising money trying to put it together. House on Rock also, that was many years back. It did happen. Christ Embassy. We're looking at big buildings that cost so much money, and it'd be nice to really look at, is it the wiring? Is it sabotage? Is it negligence? What really is behind this? Yeah, the good thing is, in all this fire, there's no report of any death or anyone trapped in it, which is a breath of relief for a lot of people. However, it's a lot of money going up in flames. So it'd be nice to really investigate and not wave it away and say, okay, it went up in flame, we can build something bigger. Yes, you can. However, we need to be sure that the bigger one is not going to go up in flame also, based on negligence or something. It'd be nice to really check that one out. And I hope that moving forward, that will be thoroughly interrogated. So, I will leave some of the big stories for my guests to get here, and then we'll focus on them. However, we know that this whole Japa situation is not new anymore. It's like a mantra. Everybody is Japaing, even if it's real or imaginary. I feel like there are more imaginary Japa situation than the real one, because if you want to Japa, do you know how much it will cost you? It is not for the faint of heart, neither the empty of pockets. It's a lot of money for you to pack your bag and your wahala and leave us alone in Nigeria. I'm just kidding. It's actually a lot of money. I bet at one point you've thought about it, but your wallet is empty.
I'm always thinking about it every day.
Yeah, but you can't do nothing about it for now because you ain't got the cash.
I'm saving towards that.
Yeah, right. So it's actually a lot of money for people, and I feel like if it was cheap, half the country would be having echo, like hello, hi, to just be two of us, me and one other person who will still be here. So back to the story. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed that all civil servants drawing salaries from the government after relocating abroad should be made to refund the money. So why would you be drawing salaries, you jackpot, and then you're still collecting? You're saying, oh, the country is not working. Nothing is doing. I need to live here. I need to go to where there's better welfare, electricity, and all of that. You're well within your right to want something better. As a matter of fact, we should demand those things in Nigeria. We're doing it and we'll continue to do it and make those demands. However, there's a problem. When you're still drawing salaries and then you've left us, you're not putting in the work. Come on. You want to go somewhere where it's functional, you're not helping ours function either. So, the president also directed that the supervisors and department heads of the culprit must also be punished for aiding and abetting fraud under his watch. Tinubu gave the directive on Saturday at the award night organized by the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation to commemorate the 2024 Civil Service Week. The event was also to honor some outstanding civil servants in core ministries and represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume. I don't know, anytime George Akume's name pops up, I just remember, I can't afford to pay 4 drivers. And then people like, so why do you have 4 drivers? He needs to do something else to supplant that particular picture from my head. Can't afford to pay 4 drivers. What was it? Is it 60,000 or 100,000? It's okay. Well, the president expressed dismay over the attitude of ghost workers, and he said during his visit to South Africa, he kept abreast of the week's activity and was particularly struck by the revelation the head of civil service shared regarding employees who had relocated abroad while drawing salaries without formally resigning. It's disheartening to hear that measures. It's heartening, however, to hear that measures have been taken to address the issue, but we must ensure that those responsible are held accountable and restitution is made. So people would work in cahoot or in connivance with their supervisor or their heads of department or whoever their superior is and disappear from the country, and they're still drawing salary and perhaps giving a cut to the person who knows they haven't been at work for a month, but approved it nonetheless. And there must be something in for them. It can't be out of just their milk of human kindness and magnanimity. So the president is talking tough here, saying we're going to get you, we're going to get those who are aiding and abating this fraud under our watch, and it needs to end. He didn't say don't go, but if you're going, turn in your resignation proper and go. And let us understand what we're dealing with at this point in time. But don't be compounding problem from far away. Okay? So that's what it is. But is this just more of the tough talk and nothing happens afterwards? Because sometimes you could have all of this, if it sounds like a bite and back and there's no bite at the end of the day. So one of the stories to look at. While we're talking, my guest waltzed his way in looking all regal and kind of like expensive. Almost tempted to crack the joke and say, in this government.
Please, before you put me into trouble.
I was almost tempted to say, in
the
this...
citizens are not smiling.
I know,
before
right?
They ask me of their money.
I know, right? Before somebody tell you he wants to do eye surgery. Come on,
more news.
All right.
Afternoon.
You're welcome, Senator. Delighted to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you.
Let's go on a quick break.
To take your taste buds on an adventure.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk. Nigeria Info Abuja is a journalist and also the chief publisher of Global Sentinel paper, and he'll be helping us wade through the big stories today. His name is Senator Iruegbu. So, Senator, welcome again.
Thank you, Kim.
Now, looking at some of the stories that we have here, let's start off with one that it's quite interesting. I'd already talked about the civil service and those who are jackpying and still drawing a salary. The president said they should stop it, and that those who are working in cahoots with them will be brought to book. Because why would you leave the country and you've been gone for months or years and they're still getting paid from Nigeria? Doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right at all. And It looks like it looks fraudulent.
Oh, but it is
In
fraudulent.
itself, yes, it's fraudulent. I know they always hide under some loopholes to commit some of these acts. I know there are some rule that kind of allows a civil servant who is outside the country for academic purposes. Or,
Yeah.
Yes.
Perhaps they would go under that cover.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But it doesn't apply, there have to be some specific criteria you have to meet, and everything has to be well documented. But just like in most of the law, people always find a way, especially in Nigerian situation, they find some gaps to try and corrupt that same rule.
Yeah.
And use it. So we've been in a long time talking about ghost workers, and they bring the IPPIS,
IPPIS, yeah.
to try and solve that problem. But yet, you still find that somehow they still find a way to beat the system. Because at the end, it's still the same people that make this, is human being that make this law. So they always want someone have a corrupt mindset, or the system itself is tolerant of corruption.
Yeah.
No matter how perfect you make a law, because there's no perfection. It's not as if the laws in the Western countries or this are more perfect than ours. It's just that the system itself is intolerant of misbehavior, intolerant of misdemeanor, or because once the difference is justice, once there's a justice meted out to such an offender or the offended. But here, difference is the case. You've seen victim being victimized further by the law, and you see the offender going scot-free. There have been case of someone who stole chicken, who is hungry and stole chicken to feed himself, receiving maximum punishment than someone who stole billions and ready to,
It settles some people
and they are left with billions to go.
Yeah.
In fact, the judge will be angry with the person. Why are you wasting my time? You mean chicken you brought here, and I've heard, in quote, the judge will get angry and slam some sentence for the chicken thief for wasting his or her time. So that's the situation here. There's no punishment for misbehavior. That's the difference between our law, our society, and some other countries. If there is punishment for such act, then you see it will start minimizing to drastically reduce.
All right then. So let's move on from that story. Janet Sunday, we see you, says, I'm watching from the Netherlands. Amos Bulus, we see you. And Dami Urbanist, they're all on our Facebook Live at Nigeria Info Abuja. So, Senator, what do you make of this, actually? The Muslim Right Concern says, that's Muric, they're feelers that the Sokoto state government is planning to dethrone Mohammed Abubakar as the Sultan of Sokoto. Muric asked Ahmed Aliyu, governor of Sokoto, to exercise restraint and not tamper with the traditional institution. And in a statement today, signed by Ishak Akintola, founder and executive director of Muric, the group cited the dethronement of 15 traditional rulers by the state governor in April 2024 and expressed concern over the sour relationship between the governor and the Sultan. The organization said the pedestal of the Sultan of Sokoto is not only traditional but also religious, adding that the Sultan doubles as the head of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. The group warned the Sokoto governor not to force Nigerian Muslims to take a drastically revolutionary measure. However, feelers in circulation indicate that the governor may descend on the Sultan of Sokoto any moment from now, using any of the flimsy excuses used to dethrone the 15 traditional rulers whom he removed earlier, the statement read. And Muric advises the governor to look before he leaps. The Sultan's too is not only traditional, it is also religious. In the same vein, his jurisdiction goes beyond Sokoto state. It covers the whole of Nigeria. He is the spiritual head of all Nigerian Muslims. There was quite a lot he had to say. But the interesting thing is also that the vice president had something to say about it, Shatim Kishima, where he described the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, as an institution that must be jealously guarded and protected. Shettima stated this during an alarm that was raised by Muric, Professor Ishaka Kintola, that the governor of Sokoto State is allegedly plotting to depose the Sultan. And the vice president said the Sultan and other religious rulers in the country need to be jealously guarded, promoted, and preserve the growth of their country. That in all developmental issues in the country, His Eminence the Sultan of Sokoto, I want to use him as a point of reference to recognize and appreciate all our royal fathers present here. And to the Deputy Governor of Sokoto State, it's a simple message for, yes, the Sultan is the Sultan of Sokoto, but he's much more than that. He represents an idea. He's an institution that all of us in this country need to jealously guard, protect, promote, preserve, and project for the growth of our nation. It might be connected to the alarm that was raised by Akintola. It just might be the spur of the moment to just remind us of how important the Sultanate is and the Sultan in the entire scheme of things when it comes to the Muslim nation in Nigeria and what the figure that he represents. But, given what is happening in Kano, where today we're having one court uphold, we're waiting for another court to see if we're going to turn down who is the real emir of Kano and all of that going on. Police has deployed more people, and we saw the ease at which, 1 minute you have one giant emirate and it was balkanized into 5 based on legislation, and then the next minute it was repealed, the law that set it up, and then we're back to one emirate, and then there's this tug of war going on between the two emirs. Depends on which of them you recognize at the moment, because even Kano is divided. It just tells you that these things can happen with ease by any governor. If you're not seeing eye to eye with the governor, they can have you removed. And with politician, even the Sultan is not too big to be removed. But perhaps that's where all of the warning is coming from at this point, to saying tread carefully.
Yes, I think first...
Given the fact that we've had a Sultan who has been removed before.
That's what I'm saying. Let's establish facts. First, the fact is that the position of the Sultan is very, very important. That cannot be disputed. And due to the reason that both Akintola and Vice President have listed, it's an established fact. Another fact really is that Sultan can be removed. Sultan has been removed before.
Exactly.
So now, having established these two facts, we now look at the merit and the reality of the situation. How good is it? This proliferation of sack and restatement or appointment of traditional rulers in the country, I think is something that needs to be checked. I know we inherited this, what I considered as anomaly from the British, that did colonial masters that don't respect our traditional institutions.
But didn't they? So they actually did respect our tradition to a certain. It worked in their favor.
What I mean, the law was during the time of emir,
indirect rule,
the premier of Northern Region then, Ahmadu Bello, actually sacked the Sanusi father or grandfather. So it has started even during the colonial period. So what I'm saying is that attitude of, look, traditional rulers, you are no longer in charge, it started right from because the colonial authorities want to pass a message that, look, you are just a figurehead. We can dethrone you anytime. So you are here to do according to our whims and caprices. But once they left, those who inherited power, as if they are just transformed white skin to black skin. So they still carry on without that regard to our traditional institution. Instead of strengthening it further, they weakened it. So most of these traditional institutions are within the whims and caprices of the political office holders. If they seem not to be in their favor, they find a way to either dilute your power or remove it ultimately.
And we've seen quite a number of the traditional rulers who were removed.
During the military time, another time this was during the, so you can say, okay, during the military time by fiat to when
Ibrahim
Dasuki, yes, was Abacha regime. So, and from there we've seen the saga. So we have to find a way to protect the tradition so that it will make it harder. But the point is
The
that
thing is-
who appoint, because they can also create, and it's because of the mushrooming of this traditional institution whereby they create so many, and by then they've diluted the system. So now, because they are appointing, it has become, by such appointment, traditional institution become politicized. In the first instance, politicians are not meant to appoint, because this is a traditional institution. It has its own rules and regulation that it traditionally...
But not provided by law, because by law, if you're looking at the fact that they're under the
No,
local
what I mean,
government...
there can be law to protect, the English, the Danish, all these, they still have their...
Constitutional monarchy.
Yes, monarchy that is recognized, protected by law, but somehow not answerable to the political office.
But what would their role really be, even if we were to clamor for a provision within our law to just
Their traditional
cement
institutions is to safeguard our heritage,
True.
our traditional institution are way of life, divorced from the political issues, developmental issues. So there are other cultural issues. Our cultural heritage are known. Though things can be reformed, but not diluted or balkanized the way it's going. Because right now, what is happening in Kano now is because they allow themselves to become a tool in the hands of politicians, which started during Jonathan time, because they want to get at Jonathan, and then Sanusi being the CBN governor who was critical of Jonathan, and the government of that day we are hunting for him. So in order to protect him, they quickly do that thing and bypass other legal in the institution. So now that created like a political emir. And now that give the political office holder authority when he feel that he's not dancing to their tune. He felt, okay, if we can make you, we can also unmake you. That's the thing. So what we should begin to, conversation now should drive to how to reform the traditional institution across the country and make it a little bit shielded from the vagaries of politics, so that they can actually play their role. Because once it's molded, the traditional institution is molded up with everyday, then their essence is defeated. So they become partisan. Now in Kano, you are having, in quotes, AP Sultan, this one Sultan. So it's not how it's supposed to be.
Indeed.
So Emir, I'm in Kano, we are having yes, pro Ganduje Emir and pro Kwankwaso Emir, which is not supposed to be so. And the Sultan issue. So if the governor has the power, if it's happened before, if it can happen, it can happen.
It can happen indeed.
But yes,
like you pointed out, Dasuki was deposed by Abacha.
But what we are saying now is that let's reform to make it so that even if Emir want to be deposed or Sultan want to be deposed, or any other traditional institution, even in Edo State between Obaseki and Oba or Bini, there was all this ding dong where he created some so that before you can carry out such action, the law for removal or it have to be stringent. There have to be cogent reason for you. You don't just wake up, sack, appoint any traditional ruler. So that's my own
suggestion at this point in time. Well, some of these things, there's no smoke without fire, particularly feelers has been coming in from the corridors of the government house that might happen enough for Muric, and who else but the man who is a vuvuzela on his own to raise certain issues, to amplify it. And, well, we get to see how people respond to it. It's not happened yet. The governor might have a change of heart, or they might go ahead with it, because you never can tell with politicians, particularly if they have like an agenda to drive on some of these things. But I quite agree with you, Senator, about the need to strengthen our traditional institution. We do agree that they still have some relevance. The thing is that a lot of our traditional leaders and religious leaders have dabbled themselves into politics. That is almost difficult to separate them from the politics of their state and the country, enough to say, okay, you are isolated from it, so you have a shield around you. A good number of them, politicians go to them for campaign. They use the influence of these individuals to do some of the things they do. So it would have to, the law need to spell out that they are disconnected completely from the politics of things, or you'll not be able to salvage it.
Yes, that's what I still go back to even the Western country want to copy some what we consider as modern way of doing things, which is their own stand. Still respect, shield this institution from politics. Like if you check the monarchy in the British,
but are we truly going to compare with how that one is structured to what we're structured?
That's
in the
what
country?
I'm saying. We are looking at global standard. We are recommending what should be and how it should be respected. I'm citing an example of shielding political institutions from politics. That is possible. We can start somewhere. We can say if you aim to if you want to aim at a star, you shoot the moon or something like that, so that at least you, if you don't get it, you land at the moon. So if you are aiming like say 70%, try getting 100%. So that worst case scenario, if you make 70, you still make the A. So what I'm saying is that I'm trying to use that as an example to drive home the point I'm making, that these institutions can still receive, I think, in like.
Can we take a quick break where you build on the Oba Obini story in a bit? Where you build on the Oba Obini story in a bit. 1 minute.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
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 There are two ways of looking at it. I've talked largely about politicians, how they drag them into politics, how they influence them, how they, try to manipulate them. Another thing is also allowing yourself to be manipulated. Even though I explained that the system, because of the way system have allowed for politicians to make them, to create them, to impose them, to create the kingdoms, to create Emirates, create this and that. So it's the same, because that political institution created them, they can also influence and make them. But still, the personality of the occupant of that office matters, the character, to be able to stand their ground, not to be influenced. Something happened recently. It was a dramatic that trended recently. Though it's just for the fun of it, but there was essence of that. The Labour Party governorship candidate in Edo State, Olumide Akpata, when he visited as part of his political campaign, pay homage to the Oba, and he made a statement that he's the son of the palace.
The palace, and he said no, he's
Immediately Oba wash off his hand and rebukes her, please. I don't know where you're getting that information from. People felt embarrassed that Oba should have been more diplomatic. But I understand what Oba is trying to do so that it doesn't look, if he say, leave him now, they'll say, so this is Oba's candidate. So it's a son of, do you understand? So not to give any inkling of partisanship, that his home is for all to come. He's a father to all. So there's don't need to personalize it and make it so that people don't begin to read more meaning to what it is. So I think this is kind of attitude that I also expect our traditional rulers, not allow yourself to be cornered and become a candidate, a traditional ruler for certain governor tenor or certain you are traditional ruler, whether governor come or go, whether party come or go. Don't become partisan by your attitude, by your utterances, by your demeanor, by your association. Become a father of all, protecting the cultural institutions and heritage of the people.
All right, then. Let us look at some of the comments and reactions here. Danjuma Pam watching us from Jos. We see you, Chiemeka G. Godwin. We see you also. Thank you very much. And Jude Well Chima. See you also on YouTube. Brown Trendy. If the caption is correct, Wahala Day. Okay. Yeah, you saw and Let's look at what's up here. Good afternoon. No governor should appoint or depose any traditional ruler. They should be appointed and or removed by the Emirate Council. We should stop politicizing our traditional system and making a caricature and mockery of ourselves. God bless us, says Tony Ode from Gwarimpa. Let's hear this call and then go to the next story. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're welcome.
How are you?
I'm all right. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon to your guest. Yes, he's doing a very good job. May God protect him. And
Amen.
This is Abubakar. Right now, I'm calling for Area 1. The traditional rulers should not allow politicians to use their adopt their effective. A law should be made by State House of Assembly. No any politician is going to the palace to go and do any campaign. A law should be passed by the State Assembly. That is the only way to tackle the situation of this drama between the governor and Emir and Oba. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You can keep your thoughts coming also. 0700 951 0000 or 0809 5974 869. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Abdul calling from Jadi.
Welcome, Abdul.
Nice program. Very interesting. On the respect of the traditional rulers or the Sultan of Sokoto, they give room to the politicians. That is the reason why the Traditional Institute of Nigeria, most of the traditional rulers, they don't have respect in the face of those politicians. If the governor in the state assembly can impeach him when there is respect in the traditional rulers, I don't think the governor can make a step into the Traditional Institute and even lift them up. Because the people, the followers, when the traditional ruler instructs the citizen of that state, people of that state, they can able to remove him out of the office. I think they will not attempt to be doing this kind of thing to the traditional rulers. Because if you can recall, during the campaign time, what is the reason why that most of those governors used to go and line in the front of the traditional ruler and ask him to pray for them, to help them? Because if he instructs the people in that state, go for this candidate, that is where they go.
All right.
So let them start respecting themselves and putting those people that they are capable of taking care of the needs of the state, security, health, and what have you.
All right,
Without that, I don't think things is going to be okay. They will be removing them to their own traditional institute, and they will be abusing
All right.
Thank you very much. Keep doing what they are doing and doing it very well.
Thank you very much. Brown Tendy will see you. Godwin Sani says there's a lot going on in our nation, Nigeria. May God have mercy on us all. Kimberly, thank you very much. Nathaniel Adebayo says watching from Hull, United Kingdom. That's good to know. Thank you very much for joining us. Hello.
Good afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Good afternoon to your guests.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. This is Tyra.
Go ahead, Tyra. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. I honestly, Kim, I'm not happy at all. What your guest said is true. You see, these traditional rulers, it's not just only traditional rulers. In this country, the politicians have destroyed our country. They have destroyed it. Look at the Nigerian army soldiers that goes all over the world, and they will come back and they will praise it. They are now politicians. Policemen, the same thing. Police, they've destroyed our police system. I don't know why it's like that in this country. Their own is just so different. We will be able to, get in touch with the bosses and, see how they can make this work in that community also, or the state. But now, because of politics, you will see now, before you know it, it will go around. This is the country, the situation in which you are in this country. The problem we have is that the politicians have destroyed this country, and they have made it so impossible for the masses to ever think of even fighting for their own rights. Because the only people who will change this country that we are living in right now is the masses. If the masses, without the masses, there's no help anywhere.
All right.
If you like, let us wait tomorrow. Nothing will happen.
All right then.
Unless we decide that enough is enough.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tyra. I appreciate you. Just before we go for the news break, let's introduce the next story and concerns about the textile industry. I mean, look at how you're dressed, Senator, looking all, senatorial. No, but then, one thing is we had the Nigerian designer design, but where did the fabric itself come from? You find out that it wasn't made in Nigeria. You'd be surprised that it was actually made in China or somewhere else, really. Which is where this is very concerning, because we're looking at textile industry faces total collapse as revival effort have failed. How is it that one government after another, they've not just been able to jumpstart a very integral, very important industry that we would love to showcase, even by the things that we wear? Nigerian textile industry is now gasping for breath following the failure of revival measures, a sustained upsurge in the importation of textile product, and a series of adverse monetary policies are all contributing. Nigeria, let's not even go down the road of talking about our rich history of robust textile manufacturing. We had large domestic market along with export to West African sub-region between 1970 and 1990. We recorded the highest contribution to Nigerians' GDP and employment when the industry was thriving. They recorded about 180 textile mill, employed over 1 million direct laborers at its peak around 1990. It also supported huge backward integration with the cotton production value chain during the period. However, the finding has shown that the decline set about 2005, and since then there's been a struggle, despite the fact that we have a growing market size due to our population that is increasing. But we've not just been able to jumpstart that particular industry. And it's learned that 5 textile mills are still operational today, while the cotton production value chain has vanished. The labor force is also down to less than 2,000, both direct and indirect in the country. And we've seen one government after another. The CBN, as part of the revival measure, they implemented various intervention program, finance support, training initiative, foreign exchange restriction on textile import. But all of it till today hasn't amounted into anything significant. This industry is capable of so much. I remember I grew up in Kaduna. In the evening, the traffic coming from the Kakuri axis because of the people who were coming back or going further was huge, because they had a lot of workers coming in. And, our leaders, they love to wear our traditional outfit. It's not as if we're doing suit and tie all the time. So how is it that we've not obsessed over the fact that we need to produce the fabric beyond having a good designer? The material should come from here. I was shocked when I went to Benin, Togo. I was seeing a lot of them like, Nigeria, we're exporting this thing. They laughed at me. Which Nigeria? I mean, where they were sending to Nigeria? You think they make this thing in your country? Most of them are coming from China. Like, China? How is it that we want to create jobs and we've not looked at a very vibrant industry that we've allowed to die? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yes, I think you're right. So,
go ahead.
It's something that is nostalgic, especially you mentioned Kaduna. If you travel and go to that industrial, you just see carcass now. Most
of them, they need to tear those buildings down because nothing.
And there was these glory days. You know, there was an old film I was watching during, I think, other 3 years or so after Nigeria. They were opening the Bata shoe manufacture industry in Lagos then. And so many, even the assembly plant of cars and so many things. And the problem now is that, you know, there are in industrial or development of a nation, there are stages, primitive stage, pre-industrial, industrial, then the service. What is happening is that Nigeria from pre-industrial cannot even, is trying to move to service when it has not yet industrialized.
Okay, we'll take a break then build on this thought after the break. Stay with us.
Introducing the first of its kind in Nigeria.
The first radio.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.